Who was actually the best Blues player of all time? You're going to find out here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, St. Louis, and welcome back to Locked On Blues, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your first listen every day. My name is Haley Taylor Simon, and I am your host here on Locked On Blues. And today's episode is going to be a fun one. Yesterday, I kind of talked about this, but we're going to talk about the best leaders of the St. Louis Blues. We're also going to talk about who from the past would make the most impact on the team now. And then, of course, the world of Blues, what is going on with St. Louis Blues hockey up to today. So a lot to jump into. But first, I want to let you know this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. All right. So before I jump right in to the best leaders and who from the past and all that fun stuff, I just want to introduce myself again because I want you to get to know me. So as you can tell, today is studio day where I spent almost my whole day at the studio. So my name is Haley Taylor Simon, and I work in sports radio. I've been covering the NHL now for about 5 years, and it all began when the St. Louis Blues went to the Stanley Cup and defeated the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins said goodbye to Patrice Bergeron, who had an outstanding NHL career, lost to the Blues in the finals. But the point is that when one of the best, one of the best centers in the league ends up retiring, you just want to give them a little bit of a shout out, because as much as you can dislike certain teams, you can respect a team. You can respect the players. And unless they're on the Blackhawks, then there is no respecting them. But I also just want to say something else besides that, is that hockey, it's beautiful, right? Hockey is one of the most beautiful sports out there. So I just wanted to touch on that I truly love hockey, and it is the love of my life. So I think that this is going to be an interesting decision. The Blues' best leaders. So looking back at this season, I would have to say my top 3 leaders from the St. Louis Blues are Brayden Schenn, Robert Thomas, and Jordan Kyrou. Those are my top 3. And the reason why is I think they made the most impact on the ice. I think when you look at a leader, you have to look at who is mostly impacting the ice in a positive way. I don't know what you think. I also think Justin Folk is up there. I think that he's like a good 4th man, right? But those are my top 3 that I have written down. I want to know what you think about who your top 3 leaders were for the St. Louis Blues. Did it align with what I said, or do you have somebody completely different? I sometimes like to do this thing where I do wild card spots, right? So in terms of a wild card spot, I mean, I don't really have anybody that would be a wild card spot. I mean, Sammy Blais, he did pretty well for what he is. But those are my solid top 3. And I don't think that you can really argue with that. It is interesting, though, because I did mention 4 different names. Well, realistically, you could have Brayden Schenn be a captain, and then those guys could be the assistant. It's not that difficult. I don't know why they're struggling so much, because I just figured that out in under 5 minutes here on Locked On Blues. Speaking of captaincy, it's, the end of July. I don't like that summer's going by fast because I love the warm weather. I love watching the Cardinals. I love baseball. But at the same time, I am so eager to get hockey season back again. I find myself bored, and I distract myself when I'm bored. So when I'm bored, I'm just like at the gym pretending I'm working out, like to warm-up songs. It's so embarrassing. But that's what I have to do to distract myself during this very difficult time. Another thing that I want to say about the best leaders on the St. Louis Blues, a leader can also be the coach. So, Coach Craig Berube, this is your opportunity to lead the team, to be the man that stands up there and says, you need to get your act together. But leadership in hockey is super important. It's different than any other sport. I mean, usually in basketball, we have to think about why leadership is important. So in basketball, you usually have your all-star on the team. In football, it's usually the quarterback, instance Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. But I'm not going to get too much into football, but a wide receiver helps too. But yeah, no, when you think of a leader, you think of Patty Mahomes. When you think of leadership in baseball, it kind of comes to the manager in a sense. And maybe that's just me because you can't think the pitcher because the pitcher doesn't pitch every single game. So it goes to who is the most consistent. Well, the manager, that's the most consistent because guys get taken in and out of lineups, right? I'm not saying that in hockey the captain doesn't get taken out because, of course, that's a possibility, but they're the most likely candidate to be the most consistent, to have the most ice time, and to always be present. And I think that that is an important discussion is the leadership aspect of the St. Louis Blues because back when they won the cup in 2019, um, completely different team, right? Petrangelo was the captain. O'Reilly was a good leader. They still had Shenny. And it goes to show that the team follows the leader. And it doesn't, you know, Petrangelo was an assistant captain for the Las Vegas Golden Knights who just won the Stanley Cup. And it's it's a little bit of an interesting thing to think about is his impact on the ice, not just with St. Louis, but also with the Las Vegas Golden Knights. He has an impact because he is a leader, folks. And that's where I'm getting at is that the Blues, they have talent. They're not untalented. We talked yesterday on Locked On Blues about Bennington, Binner, Mr. Goalie, who just got married, who had a great offseason thus far in his personal life. And you think about that, okay? So you have a great goalie. You have some really strong forwards. You have some, okay, good defenders, okay, and a Justin Folk, right? But maybe a Nick Leddy. I'm trying to name some defenders that I don't think are awful. I'm being nice. Torrey Krug, what up, Krugy? But the point that I'm trying to make is think about how different the St. Louis team will look if they had a guy like Shen as a captain. I'm not going to get off this high horse. Shen as a captain. I will speak this into existence. And when it happens, you're going to say, oh, that girl Haley from Locked On Blues said it months ago because, yeah, I'm usually right when it comes to things. With my little Italian hands, I was like, yeah, I'm usually right when it comes to things. Pass the mozzarella. No, but I really am always right. So, a really quick thing, and I want you guys to get to know me. I want you to get to know me. And right now, for the folks on YouTube that are watching, hello, I am wearing a sweatshirt. I know it's also summertime, so whoa, I know, crazy, I know. But it says West Virginia Mountaineers, and it's the same colors as the St. Louis Blues. And yes, I went to West Virginia University. And how I told you that I'm getting something shipped to me? Well, it came in today. It is my vintage St. Louis Blues sweatshirt. I've been like such a sweatshirt person lately. I don't know why. Trust me, I have my sweaters and my hats, but I'm like such a sweatshirt person. Sweatshirt, my hair up in a ponytail, that is the look. So that is another thing about me. I graduated from West Virginia in 2021 with a sports broadcasting degree. So it has been quite an adventure, but I wanted to tell you about that. Speaking of telling you things, FanDuel Sportsbook. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets, up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets. Win or lose, that's $200 you can spend betting everything from money line to the over-under to who you think is going to get the first home run. All on the app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. I have to tell you guys a confession about myself and getting to know me. I'm like addicted to betting. Like, not where it's problematic. Like, it's only like 50 cents. But I bet on like table tennis when it's the off season from hockey. Okay, so let's go talk about some players that made the St. Louis Blues so special and who I think could most benefit the team currently. So there is obviously the one, the only Keith Tkachuk. And Keith Tkachuk came to St. Louis from Phoenix and spent the final 9 years of his career wearing the blue note. So Tkachuk came, and this was about 2000, maybe 2001. But he was part of the Blues squad that got to the conference finals against the Avalanche, who I believe won the cup that year because obviously the Blues didn't. He finished I have like a little bit of notes, right? 7th in points in Blues history with 427, and 5th in goals with 208, and 7 in game-winning goals with 29. And he came in 4th with power play goals with 96. Tkachuk also scored his 500th and 1,000th NHL point being a St. Louis Blue. He has been elected into the Hockey Hall of Fame. And one thing about Mr. Tkachuk, and this is something that I think is important to discuss, is that he gave it all to St. Louis. The amount of injuries that he sustained towards the end of his career, I just remember watching and I was like, whoa, this man has taken a beating. But he truly was everything that a St. Louis Blue should be. And definitely a fan favorite, I would say. I don't think there's anybody else like him. Chris Pronger. Ah, man, how can you not love Chris Pronger? So Chris Pronger. He came into the Blues 2 years into his career and I believe he was the longest tenured captain in Blues history. He accumulated 356 points as a Blue and 931 penalty minutes, which was, I believe, 4th as a St. Louis Blue, while playing 598 games as a St. Louis Blues. So he was dirty, but who didn't like it? I liked it. And while Pronger was a little bit before my time, I remember looking back because when I was younger, I would watch whatever the NHL Network channel was called back then. And they would just have like all these like top 10 moments. And I just remember Pronger always being on it. So that was a fun memory. So that is another player from the past that I think would really help out the team. Mr. Gary Unger. Now, all these players, for some reason, it's always 9 years. I'm like, Keith, Chris, Gary. Oh man, but Mr. Gary Unger, I mean, he helped the Blues during the Expansion 6 era of Blues hockey. He had the longest consecutive games played streak with 914. That was 4 different teams in 11 years, which is unbelievable. He was one of the best players to come out of that expansion era. And one thing that I have to say, he played 662 games as a St. Louis Blue, and that's remarkable to me. That's a lot of games played. Again, he didn't miss anything. So, oh my gosh, but Brett Hull, one of the best players to ever wear the St. Louis Blues sweater. He was originally a Calgary Flame, but traded to St. Louis in 1987. He would spend 11 seasons with the Blues, so he's finally beating that 9-year streak that all the other guys had. And he went through his prime in St. Louis. He was insane. He finished first in goals with 527. He had 27 hat tricks and 70 game-winning goals. He had 195 power play goals, and he had 137 playoff points. He helped a lot with youth hockey, too, in St. Louis, but one thing that always bums me out is that the Blues just couldn't win a cup for him. And that is something that's always bugged me in a way, was if there was one player that could have truly got the Blues a cup, it would have been him, and he deserved it. His number obviously retired by St. Louis, and he's on the Mount Rushmore. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you think of St. Louis, you think of Brett, right? So it just always bums me out. You know, like, I just wish that he won a cup, at least one cup, but it's too late. It just sucks when there's a player that is so outstanding. And then, of course, the last player that I could think of was Bernie Federico. So Bernie is probably the best player to be a St. Louis Blues, in all honesty. He played 927 games, accumulating 1,073 points and 721 assists. He was second in goals with 352 and 11 hat tricks. He is the reason why the team did not move. Okay? The team was, so a little history, a little hockey history. Nothing is stable in hockey. Like, those Winnipeg Jets? That's not the first time there was a Winnipeg Jets. So the point that I'm trying to make is hockey is a business, and like the Atlanta Thrashers, where are they? The Atlanta Flames, where are they? They're all gone. So the Blues have been sold, and it was a little bit spiraling down. But because of the success that Bernie had and his teammates saw, the team went on a climb in the standings. He was one of the best two-way players the Blues have ever had. And he was awarded the captaincy in his last season as a Blue. I think that he still should have been captain before then, but obviously, And his number was retired, and he was elected into the Hockey Hall of Fame. He kept the Blues in St. Louis. And he kept his teammates motivated. Even without being a captain, he held that. So this is important that I brought this up. And for all the statistics, that's going to give credit to Bleacher Report, because I had to look up, obviously, I wrote down all those stats, but that's where I got my stats from, because I do trust them as a source. But when you look at players that make an impact, they're not always the captain. And they're not always, the best on the ice. I mean, he happened to be the best on the ice. But it's interesting. It was a really interesting thing to think about. So Padoku happened today. But before we get into that, I want to let you know to make sure to subscribe to Locked On Blues on YouTube, which is at Locked On Blues. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Blues, or my own Twitter account, which is Haley T. Simon. H Money. No one calls me that besides myself, but I'm trying to make it happen. It's not going to happen. Padoku was today. I'm not going to lie to you. I saw that St. Louis was on the category. So for those on YouTube who can see, I only filled in St. Louis today. I didn't feel like doing the other teams because I just didn't care enough. But we have a team that played for St. Louis and the Toronto Maple Leafs, Ryan O'Reilly, obviously. And then the Habs and the Blues, Edmondson, and then the Canes and the Blues, obviously Jay Folk, obviously. But a couple of you, let's go see what a couple of you responded, and then I'll get into the Twitter question of today. I think this game is so much fun. It's such a trivia. David said, do the rest. Okay, the reason why the Swedish nationality, that is so difficult because I'm like, I don't know who's Swedish. Like, I feel bad like guessing that. Oh my gosh. So, wow. Who was this? Excited Blues fan said, I wish I knew your name, sir, because this is insane. So for the Leafs and the Blues is 0.9% Clifford, with a 1% with the Habs and the Blues, Plante, and then with the Canes and Blues at 11%, Brenda Moore. That was really good. David told me to do the rest. I know, David, I eventually will do the rest. I just don't want to do the rest right now. Okay. So I asked you on Twitter at Locked On Blues, which Blues alumni would most impact the team if they're able to play in their prime currently? And, oh, wow. Interesting. So Tim said, shout out Tim, my first choices would be Scott Stevens or Chris Pronger, but if picking a forward, it would be Brian Sutter, Alexander Steen, Keith Kachuk, David Bakes, Brandon Shaheen, or Doug Gilmore. And he even made a photo collage. So if you're looking on YouTube, you can see the photo collage. Oh, that is awesome. I'm going to reply right now because I think that is amazing. I think that making a little collage like that, that was some nice effort. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. All right. Sharon said, I'll never call Gretzky an alumni. He was a rental. So therefore, what we need now is a Scott Stevens or a Chris Pronger in their prime or Al McNiss. I hear ya. Listen, Gretzky, 18 games as a Blue. That's awesome. He did want to stay in St. Louis, but it didn't work out. So he really was a rental in all honesty. So I like that, Sharon. All right. Jason says, Pronger, he'd replace two defensemen and make Parako play like him. I agree. He was such a leader on the ice. Absolutely, Jason. That is a good one. Sam said, Chris Pronger is the only logical choice. I agree. Jim said, Pronger. Easy. Brian said Gretzky. I mean, obviously, Wayne Gretzky. Obviously, he would make an impact. But it's interesting to see how you can, debate and go back and forth of why this player and this player. So I like that. And then Tim with another reply. Dude, my man's Tim. Tim, thank you, because Tim is making all these photo collages. And it's one of the funniest things. He said to me, I want you to flip a coin. Scott Stevens or Chris Pronger. And then he made another collage. Chris Pronger. I would choose Chris Pronger. After everything I told you all, I would want Chris Pronger to be on this current St. Louis Blues team. The defense needs him. The team would need him. And I believe that he has the talent. He has the ability to change this franchise. So to everybody that said Chris Pronger, you just won my random thought of the day. But no answer is wrong. This was a fun little exercise. Tomorrow's show will be a lot of fun. So my everydayers, make sure you comment below. And we're going to be having some little fun questions on a fun Friday afternoon. That's all for today for Locked On Blues. Again, I am your host, Haley Taylor Simon. And like always, I will see you next time. And let me go get a Let's Go Blues.